Hey, good morning. Coffee topic this morning. I want to talk about the New York Warehouse Worker Injury Reduction Act. I know it's a mouthful, but these things tend to be long in the title. And what's interesting is while this really applies to New York, there are other states that have warehouse safety efforts underway. Now, warehousing has taken a hit in the last couple of years, in my opinion, being targeted for specifically MSDs and other related injuries. But here's what I want to talk about. And this is why it's important. Yes, it's in New York, but it does kind of hit on some things that we need to pay attention to outside of New York. Certainly, if you have operations, warehouse operations inside New York. But the one thing that was changed was they expanded some definitions. The one I want to bring your attention to is the definition of a musculoskeletal injury. So all they did was say musculoskeletal injuries. So they had to actually be a little more specific with the law that it now covers work related musculoskeletal disorders. You think that would be obvious, but I think the objection was, rightfully so, is that if you don't specify work related, somebody could just show up and claim that they were injured. So this definition under this particular act in New York State, it actually aligns with what OSHA what OSHA defines as a work-related injury. They even go on to say that work-related musculoskeletal disorders affecting the muscles, nerves, tendons, ligaments, joints, cartilage of the body's musculoskeletal system, also the spinal discs of the upper and lower limbs, neck, shoulders, and back. So this change it in the definition now makes it clear that the injuries themselves must be work related. So work related conditions such as injuries, illnesses, or disorders that are caused by exposure while working that either significantly cause or contribute to the resulting condition or exacerbate a pre-existing condition. This sounds familiar to us because it is, in fact, what OSHA refers to as a work-related injury. And then also they have to be caused by ergonomic risk factors, including but not limited to, get this, rapid pace, forceful exertions, extreme or static postures. I mean, you got both now, I guess. Repetitive motions, direct pressure, contact stress, vibration, or cold temperatures. Then also injuries that do not occur because of workplace accidents. They can't be caused by workplace accidents like, slips, trips, falls, things like that, because those would already be covered. Those would be work related. Okay. So they have that's interesting. Rapid pace, forceful exertion, extreme or static postures, repetitive motions, direct pressure, contact stress, vibration, or cold temperatures. So these amendments, before it was signed, the changes that they made also used the term competent person, right? So this expands the category of what used to be, or what they're calling, qualified individuals who can draft a worksite evaluation. So a competent person is anyone capable of performing a job hazard assessment to identify and assess existing and predictable ergonomic risk factors. So these are factors that could cause or contribute to MSDs. So this is important. It isn't enough to just say, "Oh, I'm a competent person. I've been managing safety and this, that, and the other." This is very targeted. It says that capable of performing job hazard assessments to identify and assess existing and predictable ergonomic risk factors. So, ergonomics background or training. It's vague. I mean, it doesn't say you have to be an ergonomist or an industrial hygienist or certified industrial hygienist, but the CIH, by the way, is in the list of qualified persons, but now a competent person has been added. That opens the door up because companies were looking at this list going, I have people that can do this. They're just not CIHs. What are you talking about? Excuse me. All right, so we had that addition that helps, right? Also, injury reduction programs. The requirement is that you have an injury reduction program. So it still requires covered employers to implement an injury reduction program to minimize the risk of MSDs that are work related. But employers must ensure that not only every job, process, or operation of work activity is covered, or a representative number thereof, but every shift is covered as well. This is interesting because what they're saying is that even though second shift might be doing or performing the same tasks, maybe the pace or the rate, maybe the staffing levels are different, and it's causing a change in how those tasks are being performed from, let's say, first shift. I think this came from some complaints that, third shift, second shift, these overnight shifts were, there's a skeleton crew. We're trying to produce or process a high volume of material, goods, packages, whatever. And day shift, they can do it at a reasonable rate because they have more staff, they have more workers. So now your work site, your injury reduction program has to also consider the by different shifts. You have to assess different shifts. Okay, now let's get to the worksite evaluations. Before the amendment, worksite evaluations were only required to obtain recommendations from workers. Now you have to incorporate input from workers, either directly or through an employee-led workplace safety committee. So this implies that employee input must be expressly recorded in the written worksite evaluation that is required in your injury reduction program. That's interesting. The amendment removes the requirement for a certified ergonomist to evaluate the work site and allows a competent person to perform this evaluation. I talked about that. I'm reading from a list of updates that I have here. That was an interesting one right there. All right, existing workplace safety committees formed through collective bargaining are permitted to review or conduct worksite evaluations. Here's my thing. If they're permitted to conduct worksite evaluations, do they also have to meet the requirements of a qualified individual? Interesting, right? All right. So those are some of the amendments. Here's the catch, though. A board certified ergonomist is required to review the written worksite evaluation when either an employee-led workplace safety committee files a written request to the employer based upon a material concern related to the findings of a competent person, or in the absence of an employee-led workplace safety committee, when any employee-led committee. So it doesn't have to be a safety committee. It could be any employee-led committee when they make a formal recommendation based on a material concern related to the worksite evaluation of the findings. So anytime anytime an employee-led committee, and which includes an employee safety committee, anytime they object to the findings of the evaluation, that triggers a board certified ergonomist to review the written worksite evaluation. All right. Some more changes to on-site treatment, and this is something that might affect or impact a lot of larger operations. The amendment clarifies that on site treatment requirements under the law apply to medical offices or first aid stations and to any location where medical professionals treat warehouse workers for symptoms of work related MSDs. So keep that in mind if you have any kind of first aid station or clinic and you're treating. And I know we can get Lori in here to talk about the OSHA requirements, the changes in definitions of what is medical treatment and what is first aid when it comes to massage, for example, massage therapy, things like that. But if you're doing any kind of first aid treatment for a chief complaint being a soft tissue soreness or suspected injury, that's something you might want to take a hard look at. Look at your policies and procedures, especially if you're in New York. Check it against this law, but this goes in effect June 1 of 2025. So, workers in New York, I'm sorry, employers in New York, you really need to consider drafting your plans now, your injury reduction program now, because you're going to want to get ahead of this. Now, I don't know what impact this might have to some of the larger operations that we know have things in place already. It's just sort of, okay, where do we need to tweak or adjust? We're already doing these things, so we're gonna have to change the format of this or the title of that. We'll just have this other person review it, but we're done. It's the mid-sized to smaller operations that are gonna get caught with this, and that could be concerning. But again, I'm not saying don't do anything. Obviously, you have to follow the law. Period. End of story. As far as risk goes, if somebody were to ask me, hey, I'm a small warehouse, we operate 3 warehouses for some stores local. I do know a warehouse, a company that operates two warehouses in a particular area. It's for pet food stores, pet stores that they own, and they have 2 warehouses. One's not real big, but one's a small one that they have. And I got a message. They were like, "Hey, should we be concerned?" And I'm like, "No, only in so much that you need to follow the law. Yes, but are you at risk of getting visited? But I don't know. You're pretty small operation and handful of workers. This is targeting large operations. So that's just my opinion. What do you think? Warehouse safety laws that are special for warehouse workers. Yeah. Can you imagine seeing some of these things in construction, right? With extreme positions or static positions. If you move too much or if you're not moving enough, you can get caught. Forceful exertion. I mean, come on, maintenance technicians, for goodness sake. Can you imagine? No, just warehouse workers. I'm not saying they're just warehouse workers. I'm saying this just applies to warehouse workers. Hey, warehouse work, it's tough work. Depending upon the goods and materials you're moving, it's hard work. We need these folks, these fine men and women that help move our goods and materials around this country, and we need them desperately. So don't get me wrong. We need to address the unique challenges that they face. I just question the motivation some of these states have to target specific large warehouses. So, hey, let me know what you think about this. How can you, so on the positive side of things, right? How can you look at something like this and go, hey, this is something we can do. We can do this now. It doesn't exist in our state. Federal OSHA hasn't adopted it, maybe not yet, but this is something that we can do for our workers to stay competitive, right? To hire the best workers out there and attract the best workers out there. Let me know what you think about this. I look forward to reading your replies.